a secret word in the vocabulary of the rich. I want to share it with you. Leverage. Leverage is this secret word that is part of the lexicon of all the rich out there. Some of them may not even know it, but it is. And I'm going to tell you why and explain it right here, right now. I'd like to go ahead and draw a distinction, though. Distinctions are important. When I say the rich, I mean the rich, not just the wealthy. I mean the people who are rich in relationships, that are rich in health, that are rich in all areas of life. We can call them the new rich, we can call them the rich, we can call them wealthy, we can call them whatever you want. But when I say the rich, I mean people who are winning in all the areas of life, not that are only wealthy. Why do I say leverage is in the vocabulary of the rich? Because it's the foundation that all the most successful people in the world think about the most. They think about leverage and how to get more of it. This is essentially asymmetric risk reward, but applied also to relationships, to life in general. Why? Just take the top people on social media. What are they doing? Think about it right now. Think about the Alex Hormozis, the Wes Watsons, the Dave Ramseys. I mean, people that have huge platforms. The Rock. All of them are using social media to get leverage. They can make one input, one video, and it can be viewed by millions of people. That's leverage. Inputs, outputs. And it's the delta between the two. Now, where this is really important and how this can massively improve your life is to actually start thinking in all aspects of your life of leverage. Where does the first aspect of leverage come from? Well, we'll say self-development, personal development. You've got to get leverage on yourself in order to start making changes. When you have that hunger, when you have that drive. I heard Tony Robbins years ago say the number one distinction, the number one trait that sets high achievers apart from non-high achievers is just sheer hunger. They have this leverage on themselves. They have this hunger within them to excel, to do extraordinary things, to not settle for mediocrity. Right? Are you picking up what I'm putting down here? It's leverage. And it's something that if you think on enough, you'll start to apply all aspects of your life. Because so many people, they just hear a word and they kind of move on from it. They kind of hear something, but they don't implement it. They don't take it and make it a part of their life where they're starting to ask, dude, how do I get leverage here? I'm trading time for money. I've got no leverage. I mean, the leverage I've got is one input, one output. It's a direct trade. But instead, if you can start saying, okay, how do I get leverage? Maybe it's a college degree. Maybe it's not a college degree. Maybe it's learning additional skills. Maybe it's just showing up at a higher level in the company that you're at. Maybe it's asking for a raise. Maybe it's bringing in people underneath you and getting leverage through other people. Maybe it's getting a personal assistant. That can get you leverage on your time. But all of these are leverage. You've got to start getting more outputs for the inputs that you put in. And this is what all the rich, all the top performers in the world do. They get more output for the input. So I want to bring this to your attention because it can massively transform your life overnight if you start thinking in terms of like, how do I get leverage here? How do you get leverage in your relationships? Well, what does leverage look like in a relationship? Maybe you need leverage to get more time. Maybe you need leverage emotionally. Well, how can you do that? For some people, that's waking up and listening to something motivational. Maybe if you're a guy and you're needing to get more emotionally connected, maybe you need to listen to something in the morning on emotional connection. Maybe that gives you the leverage. Maybe it clicks in there for you where you're like, boom, I get it. Finally. Now this explains it. Maybe you need to listen to the 4 Agreements or whatever the book is. Maybe you need to listen to, the 5 love languages. Whatever it may be, all of these give you new knowledge so they can change your beliefs, they can reshape your beliefs, and then they give you leverage where you have a framework to get more input, more outputs for the input. you can have a greater connection. Rather than going to a meal or a date night, and a date night just being a casual weekly or bi-weekly thing, whatever it may be, maybe it turns it into this momentous occasion that's memorable and solidifies your relationship further, and where you have further connection because you have more leverage there. You're more invested. You have a greater capacity to grow and to love and whatever that may be. So I've been thinking a lot about leverage and how that applies to not only my life, but like just lives in general of so many people. And if you think about a lot of the great people, what have they used through their life? Let's take Richard Branson, for example. Well, when he started Virgin Airlines, what did he do? He got leverage. He also created an asymmetric risk reward. As the story goes, he got whatever company it was, maybe Boeing or whoever, to agree that if the airline didn't do well enough after a year, they would buy back all the planes. Well, that's leverage, man. That's an asymmetric risk reward. You've got massive upside, but massively minimized downside. It's leverage. So all the best people think in terms of this. They think in terms of how do you get more leverage on themselves? How do they do better? Countries think about this strategically. How do we get leverage over another country? How do we compete? How do we outproduce? Companies think this way. How do we get more leverage so that we can get greater outputs with fewer inputs? It's such a massively, I think, undervalued word that when people start thinking in terms of this in all aspects of their life, it can radically change your experience in what you're doing. Let's relate it to another area, maybe health. A few years ago, man, my health was in the gutter. I wasn't doing so well. I was really having problems, digestive issues. I was struggling. If you're out there and you're struggling, chances are you need to get some leverage. How do you get leverage? Well, you get some new information, and then you change your diet. The inputs are actually even roughly the same. You just change the quality of the inputs, but the output you get is not linear at all. It's not like, hey, you just make a few small changes and you get a 5% increase in your energy, at least not if you're sick. Now, if you're at, close to optimal, then that may be the case. But if you're struggling and you're having problems out there, dude, you can make some small changes and get massive differences in the output, just massive changes. So this applies to so many areas of your life. And if you'll start thinking in these terms, I think you'll see how much the word leverage can change your life. It's a single word, but the rich think in terms of leverage. They think, hey, if I'm going to go do this new business deal, I want to make $10 million and I want to have a runway of, say, 5 years. 5 years to make a new $10 million business. How can I do that? Well, you can't do that oftentimes solely by yourself. You've got to get leverage, and maybe that's leverage through a team, maybe that's leverage through automation, maybe that's leverage through social media so that you can reach more people, so that you can become more known, so that you can promote. But you couldn't do that years ago if you had to meet somebody one-on-one, or even if you're speaking to a room of 500 people, you're still reaching 500 people. But nowadays, dude, you can make a post on social media and, that post could get 100,000 views. That's leverage. And so you start thinking about that and you're like, okay, I need more people to know about my product, and more people need to know about my offer. Well, start thinking in terms of leverage, because leverage is the key word that the rich think in. And there's so many aspects to it, whether it's asymmetric risk reward, whether it's the quality of the inputs leading to directly to greater outputs, whether it's, actually thinking about physics with the lever arm and actually just moving that based on the method that you're using, whether that's automation, like you can use automation that gets a little bit of automation, or you can use automation that drastically can increase your outputs. And it's all up to you. It's all up to you to decide. Like if you're somebody who's like, oh, I don't really like technology, I'm just going to kind of, fiddle around with these things, make some social media videos, and maybe I'll message everybody one-to-one. You can do that. But dude, there's so much automation out there now. You can be like, hey guys, leave a comment in my video, like whatever, sign on the road, leave that, boom, they get an automated message. Now you can send that out to 3,000 people at once. Never had to do anything, had to set it up. But leverage is such an important thing. And once you start thinking in terms of it, your businesses will start to be able to scale. Because if you don't think in terms of leverage, and you always are thinking in terms of one input equals one output, it's very difficult to grow. And if you're growing in life like that, self-development, when it's a one-for-one game, that's a rough game. But what you realize when you get into the self-development world, and you're just like, dude, I want to out-self-develop everybody because I'm in the life-changing business and I know about this stuff. You can get exponential growth. You can have tiny inputs that have massive outputs. Dude, that's like you go to a conference that's 2 days long, and yet it affects the next 40 years of your life. If it's a high-quality conference, if you've got high-quality speakers, and if you personally prime yourself, you make sure that you're emotionally ready, you make sure that you've got leverage on yourself, you make sure that you are in a state to say, dude, I am not going to leave this conference without it changing my life. I guarantee you it will change your life. I guarantee you'll get enough value there that your life will never be the same. You will never be able to go up backwards. It'll be like trying to get the toothpaste back in the sleeve. It won't happen. You can't put it back. But that's the difference. But you have to go into it with the mindset that you're going to have leverage on yourself. You've got to develop that leverage on yourself. Maybe you need to spend time beforehand thinking about all the pain of what's going to happen if this conference doesn't change your life. If you don't make the changes, maybe you need to really ruminate on that so that you've got the emotional leverage so that when you go into it. But hey, 2 days to change your life? Dude, I would posit that it could be less. It could just be a single YouTube video. This video right here could change your life if you'll let it. You could sit here and watch it and be like, dude, I never thought of leverage that way. I didn't recognize in how many aspects of my life that I wasn't getting leverage, that I was not understanding the value of this one single word, this one single concept in life that is actually multidimensional. And that's what you want to be. You want to be a multidimensional person. And that's the power of this word. That's the power of this concept, is that once you start understanding it, you can start applying it everywhere and just watch how fast your life changes. Be great, everyone.